tell if people are joining?
Well, I haven't broadcast yet, so people aren't allowed to join. Live on Facebook. I'm going to try. It's 12:01. Okay, I'm going to broadcast this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Armchair Adventure Book Club on the Zoom platform. I see a bunch of people are joining Zoom, which is great because we are still trying to figure out how to share on the Appalachian Trail Conservancy Facebook page. So while I'm punching these buttons, I'm going to have our panelists for today introduce themselves. We'll start with Warren. Warren, can you tell everyone hello?
Hello! From Mountain City, Tennessee.
Who are you?
Pretty good.
So Warren is a character in Becoming Odyssa, which is the book that we are covering today. And I have another character from Becoming Odyssa who's joining the Armchair Adventure webinar today. And in the book, he is known as Mooch, but we'll see how he introduces himself today. Not to be confused with Moot, by the way, the guy who followed me in Virginia for 6 days. This is Mooch, who I finished the trail with.
You followed me for many days. That's
yeah.
the difference.
Right. Right.
Today, I'm calling from Jericho, Vermont, and I'm in the book. I'm Mooch. I'd like to think of myself as the hero of the story. Yeah, but yeah,
Blessings.
The main friends all these years. So good to be here.
So I'm still looking. I'll try one more Facebook share. See if this works. Okay. I think the only place I am able to share this right now on Facebook is my personal Jennifer Farr Davis profile. So the Appalachian Trail Conservancy folks, if you are watching and if you are able to share this, then I hope it can also go on the Appalachian Trail Conservancy page. All right, we should be live everywhere. So to start today in our Zoom webinar, one of our hopes is that this book club is informative and inspiring and interactive, and that you don't necessarily need to read the book before coming on and getting some quality inspiration and information. And so what I'm going to do in Becoming Odyssa, can we see it? There we go. I hiked the entire Appalachian Trail as a 21-year-old, and I'm going to give you just a short kind of recap of what that was like. To sum it up, it was hard. It was really hard. It was way harder than I anticipated, and it was life-changing. I got to the end and I was a completely different person, and I don't have time to recap all the challenges and adventures along the way, but it is interesting because now I've hiked over 15 years pretty seriously, and still some of my most unique and difficult encounters came on that first through hike. I was struck by lightning. I got caught in a snowstorm. We already referenced this guy who followed me for a while, wanted to be a hiking partner, and I didn't necessarily want to hike with him. I had, some tragic things happen on this hike, and by the time I got to the end, which the last 2 states were my favorite on the first hike, and partly because I was with Jay, who's with us today, and our other friend, Nightwalker, in the book. But when I got to the end, I knew my life was different, and I valued simplicity and quality relationships with people who were completely different from me. And I also knew that I needed time by myself, and I liked time by myself, and the trail's good for giving you that. So is coronavirus, maybe too much right now. And then I think my self-image and my self-confidence certainly changed as well. And one of the biggest things for me that happened when I was hiking is that for the first time in my life, I realized that I was a part of nature and I wasn't disconnected from it. I wasn't removed from it. I was a part of it. And that makes you feel beautiful and really, you know, capable and a little bit wild. And it's a really wonderful feeling. And I never wanted to feel disconnected or like an observer ever again. I wanted to be a part of nature. I wanted to be a participant, and that is one thing that the trail gives us. And so in the book club today, I have some questions for Warren. I have some questions for Jay, and then I'm going to open it up to audience questions for folks who are in the Zoom platform with us. And again, I don't know what's happening on Facebook. We might have some viewers there as well. But if you can, go ahead and come on Zoom. We'd love to have you here. And we'll get started with some questions for Warren today. The first time I met Warren, it was 16 years ago now. It was 2004, right before my first thru-hike. And I was 21 years old, and my mom just flipped out because I had zero hiking and backpacking experience. And she said, you have to do something, you have to prepare, you have to take a class or a workshop. And so I went online and I found something called the Appalachian Trail Institute, and it was run by this man named Warren Doyle, who I had never heard of before. And I went up to this class in December and met this guy. Your hair maybe was not quite so white back then, but still certainly gray, and he had his big belly, and I was like, what is this guy going to teach me about thru-hiking? And he was intimidating. You were intimidating when I met you, and a little eccentric. Now you're normal. So that maybe something's weird with me that I think you're normal now. But I met Warren at ATI, and that was the start of the journey for me. So Warren, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about the Appalachian Trail Institute and what you try to give folks like me who come and are hoping that one day they'll be able to successfully hike the Appalachian Trail.
All right. Well, it's just a 5-day program, and it's very inexpensive. It's even cheaper than Elder Hostel or Rhodes Scholar, and it's people of all ages. And as an educator, I think that if you have a 75% failure rate on the Appalachian Trail for 40 years, that can be corrected. And I have proven that it can be corrected by proper preparation for walking the Appalachian Trail. So I'm all about increasing the success rate of people who want to fulfill their dream of walking the entire AT.
And how many Appalachian Trail Institutes do you think you've given? How many people do you think you have helped through your workshops?
Well, I've been doing them since 1989 and maybe do 4 or 5 a year. So I guess the math would be 30. Maybe I've done about 150 of these. And so I'm probably close up to maybe 1,500 people.
And what qualifies you to talk about the Appalachian Trail? We probably should have mentioned that earlier.
Well, experience, actual on-the-trail experience, not book learning. You know, I'm a folk academic, but I've done the Appalachian Trail more times than anyone else. I've done 9 through hikes and 9 section hikes.
So 18 completions of the Appalachian Trail.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you remember meeting me at the 2004 December ATI?
Sure. Yeah. You know, young, looked like a hiker, got long legs, and you were a great sponge. You know, I threw a lot of water on you, and you absorbed it all.
Yeah.
So that was good. You're a good student.
Did you think when I left the Appalachian Trail Institute that I would successfully complete my thru-hike?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And after you and some of the other youngins in that group, you went out and did 2 weeks, just a trial run, you know, southbound, met a lot of northbounders. That showed how smart you were. And no one else has ever done that. And so after you did that 2 weeks, I said, she's got it.
So after meeting you at that 2004 Appalachian Trail Institute, I kept hiking and we kept crossing paths, literally, figuratively, and we've grown to be, I think, pretty close friends over the past 16 years. You've helped me with my trail records. I came across your path in the Sierras in California on the John Muir Trail.
Yeah.
You called a contra dance at my wedding,
Yeah.
the rehearsal dinner. So I'm just wondering, in those 16 years of friendship and trails and miles, if you have a favorite memory or shared experience that we've had together.
Oh, I just watching you and Brew, watching you dance when you were through that hard spot in the whites, watching you dance United States Forest Service 42 when you were finished, putting that music on and watching you finish both of your record hikes, your woman's record and overall record, and seeing you two together and how you grew together. It's great. And I like giving you water at Three Forks.
Yes.
Untreated water
Yeah.
at the end of your journey.
Yeah, that was special.
Yeah.
I really love, Warren's a big contra dancer, which is a great form of community folk dance. And he likes, sometimes when he comes down to do it in Asheville, there's been a time or two he's taken my daughter, Charlie, who's now 7. And one time she dressed up in a pink princess dress and went contra dancing with Warren. So that's one of my favorite memories. Another was when Warren bought his Appalachian folk school. Well, it was new to you, and it was outside of, in between Mountain City and Damascus, Virginia. And I came up with Charlie, who was a baby, and you were showing me around the property. And we were stepping in and out of cow pastures, and I was carrying Charlie in a kid carrier on my chest, and I was stepping out of a cow pasture, and apparently there was a live fence, and so it got stuck on my jeans, and it was shocking me, and I was afraid it was going to shock the baby, and so I like throw my baby to Warren, and I go, take the baby, because I didn't want her to get electrocuted.
I caught her.
Yeah. You did catch her. So yeah, that was one of my favorite shared memories with you too. We'll open it up for questions for Warren in a minute, but I also want to bring in Jay, also known as Mooch. Some of you might not know this, but when I wrote Becoming Odyssa, I tried to change a lot of the trail names just to protect people's identities. Quite often it was like a spin-off or closely related trail name to what they went by on the trail. But Jay, do you mind telling us your real trail name and how you got it?
Yeah, because the Mooch is just an abomination of a name. My trail name was Jukebox because I love to sing, and I think I got it. I think it was in Hot Springs. We were staying at a hostel. This is long before I met you, but there was a group of us, and we're staying at a hostel, and someone pulled out a guitar and started playing songs, and standard campfire fare, and I knew the words to every song, and no one could stump me, so I got my name Jukebox. And I love to sing, sang on the trail a lot, so yeah. Much better than Mooch.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm a little insulted.
I did. I really loved when you serenaded us on the trail too. And that's one of my favorite things about my husband, is that he'll sing to me on the trail, and it reminds me of when we were hiking together too. So it's really nice to have a hiking partner who's also willing to sing some tunes while you're walking. And do you remember where the two of us first met? We met several times. Do you remember the first time we met on the trail?
Yeah, it was, I haven't hiked it 16 times, so I'm trying to remember. Was it like Apple Mountain or Apple Orchard Shelter?
Yes.
Out in Virginia. We had heard about you, Nightwalker and I. I'll let him maintain his anonymity, my hiking partner. But yeah, we had heard about you because there weren't a lot of hikers around. Not because we were fast, but we started pretty early. So we knew you were out there, and we were expecting that someone who hiked faster and longer than us would pass us eventually. But yeah, we ran into you there and spent one night together. And then I think you were gone pretty early because you just, you didn't eat anything. And you wake up at the crack of dawn and just be gone. I'm pretty sure you outpaced us that day, and we didn't see you again for a while, I guess, till Shenandoah. Yeah.
Do you remember what happened the night in Apple Orchard Shelter?
Yes, but I remember it was raining, and I don't know, something about the shape of that shelter. The wind was blowing in the rain, and we were getting all wet. I think we boneheaded move, tried to cover our bags with plastic, non-breathable trash bags.
I really don't get the science of this. So I thought we were being pretty smart. It wasn't my idea. You know, I think Nightwalker, maybe you came up with it, but we all had our gear in trash bags so that it would stay dry. And the bottom of our sleeping bags, they were just getting drenched because the rain was coming in. And we said, let's put our trash bags underneath the bottom of our sleeping bag.
It was your idea. It was definitely your idea.
My idea.
Oh, yeah.
I still think it's a good idea. I don't understand. I mean, you think you'd have enough breathability with the rest of the bag. It's not like it's a totally impermeable barrier. Anyways, whatever happened that night, science-wise, I cannot explain to you, but I can tell you without a doubt that all three of us woke up the next morning. We took the trash bags off the bottom of our sleeping bags, and they were way more wet than they would have been if we just let the rain fall on them. Right?
Yeah, Nightwalker and I, we were science majors in college, so a lot of that did us.
You should have known better. You should have known better. Another thing I loved about Jay Mooch and his hiking partner is that they carried this huge, this ridiculously big for a through hike wildflower identification book. And when they would see, and we met for the first time in Virginia, and so a lot of the wildflowers were coming up. And then whenever we passed a wildflower, they would get down on all fours. And I remember like Mooch would stick his butt up in the air and look and examine the flower from all angles and try to find it in his book. And it's interesting, back then I was like, what are you guys doing? It's a long hike. We can't smell every flower. And now like that's one of my favorite parts is learning about the wildflowers and trying to identify them and sketch them or take pictures. So we had a lot of good memories together, and the majority of time that Mooch or Jay or Jukebox and I spent together on the trail came in the hardest section of the trail between Hanover, New Hampshire, and Katahdin, Maine. We also summited together our last day, but there was a time right in between there, right when we had hiked into Maine, that we just had we had several hard days, and then had a storm, and we went through Mahoosic Notch, and we were so tired. And the next day I was walking with Jay, and he pretty much said that the next road we get to, he's going to get off. And I really thought you were serious about quitting, and you didn't. So I just want to know, like, were you joking about quitting? Were you really thinking about it? What was going through your mind at that point?
Well, I'd hiked, 175 miles with you, so I was ready to quit. But no, it was, the Mahoosic Range is just unbelievable. So hard. I mean, the climbs aren't any steeper or higher than the Whites, but there's fewer views, and it seems a little bit less rewarding. And it shouldn't have been a surprise because I'd hiked the Mahoosic Range a couple of summers before. But I think I had gotten out before Mahoosic Arm. I think there's a trail out to Success Pond Road before Mahoosic Arm. So I'd never done that before. And yeah, I was like halfway serious, I'd say. I thought, maybe I could just go back home and then come back in a month and finish this thing off and relax. But it's hard to remember how serious I was, but I'm obviously glad I didn't quit. But yeah, the Mahoosic, I mean, it's unlike any hiking I've ever done before. And I've hiked in a lot of places in the US and abroad. And it's the Mahoosic Range is just brutal.
Yeah, it is. It is brutal. Well, I am also glad you didn't quit. And I think we probably hiked about 20% of the trail together. And I know we had a lot of ups and downs, mostly good times, a lot of laughs, and then moments like that where I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna quit. And I know that you hiked the entire trail with your very close friend, Nightwalker in the book. I think we can say his real name, right? Steve? You were hiking with Steve, and they had grown up and done Boy Scouts together in Philmont, and y'all were really close. And I just want to know, doing the entire Appalachian Trail with one of your best friends, like, what were some of the most challenging parts of that, and what were some of the best parts of that?
Oh, I mean, that really was the most special part of the trip. Steve and I, like you said, we grew up together in the Scouts, and his family was like a second family to mine. His dad was my scoutmaster for years, and so it was really special. I mean, like any group, any couple of people who are really close, like the little things get to you after a while, like especially when you're tired or hungry or cold or wet, and like you're pretty much always one of those things on the trail. But like, I don't want to compare it to marriage, but like, like when you love someone, they can really they can rub you, but you still love them even more. So I mean, it was like the most special part of the trip, was being with Steve. And we're still friends. I mean, we don't see each other as often as we used to. He lives on the other coast, and but I got to spend some time in California with him and his wife this summer. Did some hiking in the Sierras, and he was one of my groomsmen. I was in his wedding, so we're still best friends.
That's awesome. What does he do for work now? Can you give us an update?
He's a winemaker. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I had Jay on, I would have loved to have Nightwalker too, but Nightwalker and I sort of dated for 2 years after the AT, on and off, maybe not quite 2 years. So I felt like Jay was maybe a easier ask to come on and participate in this rather than an ex-boyfriend. But Steve really was such an important part of the journey for both of us. And he is an incredible person and also has the most wonderful family, which really became our family. Jay and I both got adopted by Steve's parents.
I had already been adopted. You should have moved in on my territory.
We wanted a daughter. Magic Mama always wanted a daughter. And so I happily, I think really, Jay, like one of the reasons I called you Mooch in Becoming Odyssa is because maybe you kept joking with me about how I was the one who is now getting trail magic or favors or quality time with your trail family and Magic Mama. So maybe that was a little dig back that I know I was taking a lot, but you had taken a lot for like 18 years, man. You got to share the love. Okay, so webinar, and one of the reasons we're doing my book, Becoming Odyssa, this week, this is an 8-week series, and we're having other authors and other books on. I wanted to work out the tech kinks this week, and so next week, I hope that Facebook Live on ATC platform will work. But this gives me a chance to play around with Zoom and all the features. And one of the things that we can do on this webinar, and this is before we open it up for questions from the audience, but we can create polls. And so I've come up with 2 different polls for our audience today. The first one is based off Warren. You've hiked the Appalachian Trail 18 times. And so I want to ask you first, out of all those times, can you pick out a state or maybe a place that's just really been the most special part of the Appalachian Trail for you?
Maine, from mid-August to mid-September.
Awesome. And now we'll ask our audience, what is your favorite state on the Appalachian Trail? And some of them are grouped together. Lots of North Carolina and Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia. I don't think I'm allowed to vote.
You have a lot of Southerners on this call then, huh?
I know. Jay, what's your favorite state on the Appalachian Trail?
Oh, it was definitely New Hampshire. We just got so lucky with the weather because it rained all of Vermont for us. And then, we had gorgeous weather in New Hampshire, and the ridges are so rewarding.
Yeah, we did have good weather in New Hampshire. I feel like my favorite state on the trail is Virginia. I really like Virginia. I know people get tired of it because it's got over 500 miles of the Appalachian Trail, but I just think it's a really nice mix of mountains and farmland, and the climbs aren't too taxing, but they're really rewarding, and there's lots of history alongside the trail. So I'm a big fan of Virginia, but I like them all. I also like Connecticut. It's like a little AT sampler. There's lots of diversity and different features hiking through Connecticut, and that's Jay's home state too. So, okay, good job. North Carolina, Tennessee, you won. Blue Ridge Mountains, yay. Okay, let's see. The next poll question, we're going to end this poll. Thank you for participating. The next poll is, okay, so there was this one time in, I think we were in New Hampshire, and I was hiking with Mooch, Jay, and our friend, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, Jay, you can correct me, but I know my memory is probably more accurate than yours. There was this one time where you ate a icing and cheese burrito. Do you remember that?
No. I would never mix icing and cheese. That's disgusting. I for a while I was tired of peanut butter and jelly, and so I was doing peanut butter and frosting.
Oh, maybe that was.
That's probably what you remember. But I mean, don't accuse me of something like that.
Okay, sure. There was some weird combination in there, but that leads us to the second poll today, which we'll launch. What's your favorite random trail snack? So I have icing and cheese burrito, which apparently is not a thing. Trail mix, gummies, fruit snacks. Jay, we ate a bunch of those on the trail. I like to make peanut butter sandwich with Pop-Tarts because you just got a whole lot of calories at once. Warren, I put Little Debbie's on there for you. Warren, do you have a favorite trail snack?
Well, I'm over Little Debbie's.
Oh,
I'm over her.
too many? Too much of a good
Yeah, I went on to Chef Boyardee.
Okay. Do you eat it cold? Is that what you do?
Yes, flip tops. Don't need a can opener.
There you go. Jay, what's your favorite trail snack these days?
Oh, these days. Oh boy.
It's changed, hasn't it?
What's that?
I said it's changed, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah. It used to be Little Debbie's. We were the group of really young hikers, and someone called us the Little Debbie race team at some point. But yeah, these days, trail snack would be cheese, beef jerky. I guess not a lot has changed, but a little bit more nutritious.
Yeah, my hiking diet has definitely gotten more nutritious too. I remember there was this day on the AT on my first thru-hike. I think it's in Becoming Odyssa. I was near Warren. I was near where you lived at that time, near Banner Elk. And I'm pretty sure I ate 4 Snickers in a row. Like I was just so hungry, and I had one, and I was like, well, maybe I should have 2. And then I kept.
Look what happened to you.
Look what happened to me.
Yeah, you went on to set records at 4 Snicker bars.
Yeah. One of my favorite fun facts about Warren is that he hiked the entire John Muir Trail eating only one food the entire time. Warren, can you tell us about that?
Protein shakes.
Protein shakes?
Yeah, save me time. No, I did a John Muir Trail just with protein shakes one time, and then I had Little Debbie brownies another time. The second time I hiked the John Muir Trail, I had nothing but Little Debbie brownies. And the third time, I wanted to get a little bit healthier, so I had nothing but protein shakes. And it saved me time.
Didn't you get the Cosmic Brownie, Little
Cosmic
Debbie?
brownies, that's right. Because I was in California, you know, those hippies.
Yes, the range of light and Cosmic Brownies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your spiritual stuff, you know.
Yeah. So it looks like trail mix is the winner. I got a trail mix. It's solid. I still eat a lot of trail mix.
There was a vote for cheese and frosting.
It's a true thru hiker.
It wasn't me.
Yeah. I also love salt and vinegar kettle chips. That's maybe my favorite right now. And then this is, okay, Jay, this shows you how far I've come since our first hike. This is like gourmet. I still don't cook when I backpack by myself. I just don't want to mess with it. But I'll pack out dates and cheese and pre-cooked bacon, and I'll take my dates and take the pit out, and I stuff them with cheese, and then I wrap the date in pre-cooked bacon, and then I eat it. And that is a good trail snack. It's like creamy and salty and sweet and really good. So that's one of my favorites. Okay, we're gonna shut down this poll, and we are gonna Scary. Open this up to audience questions. So if you're out there, I know we have close to 90 people in our Zoom webinar. Go ahead and ask them questions for Warren or for Jay, or you can ask me. We'll get back to you. Let's see. Okay. One of the first questions we have is, let's see. Okay, for Warren, do you think you're going to hike the Appalachian Trail again?
Good question. Probably not.
Probably
I'm
not.
retired.
So why did you retire then?
I wanted to stop on my own terms while my legs were still good, and I want to dance till I'm in my late 80s. My Forrest Gump moment, you know. I'm tired. I think I want to go home now.
So someone also wants to know why you're wearing a Yoda hat.
Because that was Drew's name for me on the trail. Trail Yoda.
Yes. Okay, another question coming in. I think we can all probably speak to this. What is your biggest fail as a hiker? I think I've had a lot of mistakes and fails. I'll say mine. Get this out in the open. I think if you read Becoming Odyssa, the book, you can see that when I started, I was really, I think, judgmental. And part of that was because in the beginning, I met some section hikers who just were not that kind. And I lumped them all together. And I felt very entitled as a thru hiker. But if you bear with me and get to the end of the book, you see that I have totally gotten over that. And, you know, these days, especially as like a working mom and someone who is a section hiker and has, you know, experienced the trail in many, many different ways through hikes. I've done section hikes of different trails. I've set records. And I really think section hiking is maybe the hardest and best way to hike, because you have to have commitment over extended periods of time. I think you really savor what the trail has to offer. You remember it better. It's harder each time to get into shape. It's really hard to protect that time in your calendar to go section hike. It's more expensive. Logistically, it's harder. So I think one of my biggest fails is just, you know, coming into the trail as someone who wasn't entitled or had preconceived notions about other people's experiences. And that was definitely a fail. But the trail works it out of you through exposure to other people and places. And yeah, the trail really kicks you in your butt. It takes away a lot of that entitlement, which is good. I'm grateful. Jay, what was your fail?
Oh, I think my fail has been not hiking as much in the past 8, 9, 10 years as I want to be, you know, with a career 9 to 5 and a growing family. I don't get out hiking as much as I'd like, but I've been taking my kids out a little bit more lately. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I can think of. I haven't backpacked in probably 4 or 5 years, which is a big fail.
Why have you not back? You should give us the update on your life. What do you do and what has happened within the past 5 years?
Oh, well, I have 3 kids under the age of 5. And we have a newborn at home who's less than 2 weeks old. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, we go camping in the yard. We camped off site once this past summer and took the 2 boys up to a fire tower, and my 4-year-old made it all the way 3.5 miles round trip up Elmore Mountain in Vermont. It was great. Yeah. But I'd like to do more. That's all.
Yep. Warren, what's your fail as a hiker?
My fail as a hiker is not having the discipline to change my eating habits once I get off the trail. That's my biggest fail.
Yeah.
Because you can eat a certain way when you're on the trail, but when you come back to real life, you're not using up all those calories every day, and you need to change your eating habits. And I never had the discipline to do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of hikers have that same issue, and it's really hard because on the trail you can eat so much and your body still just wants more and more and more and more, and it's not like it turns it off right when you get home. So it really is a transition, and yeah, a lot of us I think struggle with that. Another question we have for the three of us, which of the trails that we've hiked have been our favorite and which was the hardest? We'll probably have similar answers to this. Warren, do you want to start?
Well, I would have to say for spectacular views, the John Muir Trail, in August, and the Appalachian Trail obviously is my, favorite. It's my 2,193 mile scrapbook of memories. Very numerous memories. That sustains me.
Jay?
Well, my hiking experience pales in comparison to yours, but I love the long trail in
Yeah.
Vermont. I know I hiked it. I thru-hiked it back in 07, same summer you did it, Jen. And it's just kind of a mini Appalachian Trail, I think. It's 275 miles. I think it's a perfect length for a thru hike. So I know there was another question. People were looking for shorter hikes.
Yeah.
Summers off, and I would suggest that to people. It's not easy.
Mhm.
I would say it's kind of middle of the road New England hiking, but it's certainly not as hard as the Whites or the Mahoosics. But there's a lot up and down, and a lot of black flies.
I forgot to mention, you did ask about the hardest trail. I'd forgotten. And to me, the hardest trail is from the Appalachian Trail, the 226 miles from Glencliff, New Hampshire to East Flagstaff Lake in Maine. If that was a trail in itself, I think most people would agree that's the hardest mile per mile trail in the nation. 226 miles of the AT.
Yeah, I would have to say the Appalachian Trail is my favorite. It's my first love. It's where I've spent the majority of my miles. It's where I met really good friends like Warren and Jay here. But I've loved all the trails that I've done. I would do them all again. The Mountains to Sea Trail was another, it's one of my favorites. It's probably right up there with the Appalachian Trail. But it was also maybe the hardest for me. Not necessarily due to the terrain, but my family helped me hike across the state. So I was doing day hikes and I was met by my husband every evening, and we had a 10-month-old baby that I was still nursing. So I was walking and nursing, and then my husband had some medical concerns pop up, and it just became a really challenging journey, but also so different than my other long trail hikes. When I did the Mountains to Sea Trail, there were less than 100 completers, and it's still a trail that's coming together. So you have road walks and you see where there's been reroutes and people are actively out there making the trail, doing trail work. And so it was really cool to feel like you're a part of this trail coming together and sort of one of the pioneers, getting to see it earlier on. So yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so this is a question I want to ask Jay. I know we've been really sad in our house this week about the passing of John Prine, and there were so many good songs you sang on the trail, so many good folk artists that you sort of introduced me to when we were on the AT together. So one question is, what music are you listening to now? And if you were hiking, what songs would you be singing?
Oh, wow. Well, I've been listening to a lot of John Prine the last few days. But you should be asking Brew this. He's the singer.
He's the one that asked you. So.
Well, I've been listening to a lot of Guy Clark, a lot of Drive-By Truckers, which is not exactly, soft singing, but also, I listen, those two. I've been listening to a lot of Otis Redding and Sam Cooke, also kind of a different part of the music spectrum, but yeah, those are all good for singing.
Yeah, those are. I would love, maybe someday we can do like a family camp out or backpacking trip.
Oh, yeah.
You and Brew can both sing. I would love that. Okay, I want to ask one more question, and then we're gonna start to wrap things up. Okay, let's see. Some of these questions are really good. A lot of them are if I have regrets or would do something differently. Yes and yes. Those are the answers. So that just covers a lot of those. Okay, let's I'll combine two, and I'd like to get, hear what Warren and Jay have to say. But someone asked, what are the differences between men and women, or how are the experiences different for men and women on the trail? And what are some tips for staying safe hiking alone on the trail? Yeah, Warren, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, about staying safe, the trail is relatively safe, but I think people always have to be aware, for the demographics, certain demographics have to just have, just to be aware of your surroundings, look around, and don't stay at road crossings too long. Be more careful in areas that are more accessible to motor vehicles and non-hikers. So, I think if you're properly prepared, one of the things I do in the ATI is I list safety zones. These are the places where there's been, not a lot, but there's been several instances of harassment or violence or whatever. But once again, it's relatively safe. And what was the other question? I'm sorry.
How do the
the difference
experiences
between men and
differ?
women.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons why I like long distance hiking or endurance hiking, it doesn't discriminate against the genders. A woman can do equal. A man can do equally well as a woman. And like the endurance records and so forth. It isn't like football or basketball. A sport that was conceived to keep males dominating in our society. But it's like Irish step dancing, like river dance. The men and the women can do the physical part of it equally well. And so that's why I like hiking, because it's not gender biased in terms of the physicality of it.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
I mean, Warren touched on a lot of the safety things. I mean, just being mindful. I think you have to trust your instincts. When you meet somebody, if there's a voice in your head saying something, you ought to listen to it. But precautionary wise, just don't tell people where you plan on staying. Don't tell people that you're hiking alone if you're hiking alone. I mean, I hiked the entire Appalachian Trail with a partner, so I don't have a lot of experience. I hiked the long trail alone, but didn't worry too much. I'm also, 6'3" and close to 200 pounds. I won't tell you which side of 200 pounds I'm on, but so I don't. That might be a false sense of security given just my physical size, but I think it's helped me.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
I'm good.
Okay. I feel like my experience on the trails has been that the trail itself, the natural environment, does not discriminate between the experience of men and women. And that's been one of the most powerful parts of the experience for me, is feeling like as a woman, I can perform and do anything on a trail that a guy can do. And that I have every right to be there as well, as much as a guy. It's really one of the most democratic places for ages, genders, backgrounds, beliefs that there is in the US. So I don't think the natural environment discriminates against gender. It does discriminate against, sometimes it's harder for people who have certain disabilities, or it's harder for people who, age does play a factor at some point, but with gender, I don't think there's a big difference. Within the community, I think there is, still the community is what you experience off trail as well. But as a woman, I didn't necessarily feel unsafe. I really appreciated going to Warren's ATI and learning about the safety zones. And I had pretty strict rules for myself about, like Jay said, not giving out too much information with people who I just met. I didn't drink by myself in town. I never camped at a place where there seemed like there were excessive drugs or alcohol present. That was just all something that I didn't want to be near or deal with on the trail. And it wasn't hard to avoid. It wasn't like it was that prevalent. But yeah, mostly I just, as a woman, got hitches faster. I could hitch to town a lot faster, which I think is why Jay and Steve, with them, they started getting hitches faster too.
Hide in the woods. We put you out on the road and hide in the woods.
One funny story with that was we were in Maine and we wanted to go to town, and so they put me right by the road, and they were kind of standing a few feet behind me, and this car pulled over, and the driver was naked. Like, I looked back, I just like, I think I just mouthed it to like Jay and Steve. I was like, he's naked. And Jay didn't believe me. Like, he didn't believe me. And so you said like, no, he's not. And you went up to the windshield of the car, and then you were like,
He was.
he was. He was naked. And then I think Jay was like, no, thanks. We don't need a ride. And the driver was like, are you sure? And we were like, yeah, we're good. Yeah. So yeah, that was the main difference I think I felt. But yeah, I do. I mean, I feel as safe walking alone on the trail as I do walking in downtown Nashville alone as a female. So yeah, it's something that you get more comfortable with and confident with over time, but I don't feel like there's an inherent risk to it. So at this point, I want to thank our panelists, and I thought it would be really cool today to wrap up by doing a very short reading from the 10th anniversary edition of Becoming Odyssa, which is new. It just re-released. It has a new first chapter, which I'm gonna read from. You'll also get to read about Warren and Mooch, who is Jay, and now you'll get to know who they are and what they look like. But they're in this book. And then Becoming Odyssa just also came out as an audiobook. So that was fun to go into a studio and relive my 21-year-old journey. And I will say, in so many ways, like, man, it's weird to go back and revisit your 21-year-old self and everything that happened. And I read this book, and there's certainly things that I cringe at. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. But I think that's one thing that's made this book so special and given it such a long life is I didn't write it for anyone else. Like, this book was so honest, and it just came from my journals, and I should have maybe been a little bit more aware or socially aware, but this was just so authentic to where I was at that time. And I didn't filter the thoughts or the judgments. I just wrote them out, and it's a very organic journey, and it's a very transformational journey. And that's what the trail is for so many people. And so today I'll just read a very short part of the new chapter for y'all. Here you go. In many ways, I've spent the past 15 years trying to outgrow the naive character that fills the pages of this book. You know, the one with her unfiltered judgments and water, inexperienced skill set, and limited worldview. But in a way, all the things I would want to change about myself in Becoming Odyssa are the same reasons why this book matters. I did change. I have changed. This book matters. It resonates with people because it isn't really about me. It's about the transformative properties of spending time in nature. So on that note, I hope if you want to, that you pick up this book. You can get it at blueridgehikingcompany.com. We actually have all of the books from I'll go back to here. Sorry, I was going to share the screen with you, but I'm at the end of my Zoom capabilities right now. So just know blueridgehikingcompany.com. blueridgehikingco.com. Either one will work. And we have all the books for the Armchair Adventure Book Club on there. And when you purchase them, they come signed by the author, which is really awesome. And we also have a bundle if you want to get all the books. Maybe you want to try to read them this spring, or maybe you want to save them for Christmas presents for next year, but they all come author signed. And it's a really important time to support artists and authors and small businesses and nonprofits like the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. And, the ATC sees themselves as protectors of the trail, and they're doing everything they can right now to protect and provide for the resource during a very, very challenging season. So anything you can do to support the trail and the trail community is always appreciated. And one small thing you can do is tune in next week for our second Armchair Adventure Book Club. And we are doing, trying to show you the cover. Okay, do you see it? The book just keeps disappearing on Max Patch. There it is. There it is. Okay, it's The Unlikely Thru-Hiker by Derek Lugo, trail name Mr. Fabulous. He'll be joining us next Thursday. He's awesome. He's a lot of fun. The book is a great read. It just came out last year, and we'll look forward to hearing his thoughts about it. So thank you so much for joining us. Spread the good word. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Jay. We really appreciate you all, and we appreciate the trail and all it's done for so many people. And we'll see you next week on Zoom. End.